Welcome back, folks. We are now on round 14 of the Hyperdrive Division 1 season. And as you can see, we are here at Italy. A little bit of a different format for this week's race because our race collided in real time with the F1 race. And when that happens,
set times your third so far.
instead of just moving the time and still having the same format, what they like to do instead is just change the format and make it short qualifying instead. While I do understand that people have things to do and time needs, you only have so much time to do things, I guess. I'm not a fan of it because personally, if we sign up for something, and they already have a whole schedule of this race is on this day, I think the format of every league needs to be consistent with every race. Like, if we're not going to do full qualifying every race, why do full qualifying at all? Kind of eliminates the point of having full qualifying. And yeah, why is it sometimes, as you'll see in a couple later videos, I'll mention that races get canceled because attendance isn't great. Okay, so it just fucks. What you would do when you cancel a race because of not great attendance because it collides with like a soccer game or the real F1 race. I mean, what you should do is look in advance and move the date, or reward the people that are actually going to show up for the time that they knew already existed in the league they signed up for. When you cancel a race because of poor attendance, what you're actually doing is fucking over your dedicated drivers, and it's a really bad way to grow a league. What you should do is be rewarding those dedicated drivers by having the race. If I ran a league, I don't care if one person shows up. They can just go out, set a lap, and retire and take the win. Reward those that are dedicated to show up. And if people have other priorities in life, like they would rather watch a soccer game or F1 race live instead of doing their league race, so be it. That's their choice to prioritize things the way they want to. But for the people that actually show up for the race that they knew was scheduled to a date and time, reward those people. Also, something else I want to address that is kind of out of date at this point because this is a topic that was kind of hot in the F1 community a couple months back, but it's about you hear sometimes, and I've even heard it in a recent TRL Limitless video. Well, he's not TRL Limitless anymore. Limitless video, where one of the things he doesn't like about this year's game, he said inconsistencies, and they're talking about the example being that second chicane curb, and it's something I've talked about in Discords. But to briefly explain it, it's not RNG at all. The reason that it seems like you clobbered the curb sometimes, and other times you go over that bump on the inside of that first corner of the chicane, like it's not there, it's because of frame rate. You see, the bump is so small, and the collision box on the car that can actually hit it on the floor is small, that because the game runs in 60 frames of the second, let's say it's here and you're here, on this frame you're here, on this frame you're here, on this frame you're here, you're not touching every single pixel with every frame. So on console, sometimes you could end up landing right on it and hitting it, and sometimes you can kind of skip over it because you're here on one frame and here on the next frame. So it's not an inconsistency, it's just the fact that the hitbox on it is very small and you're going so fast that even at 60 frames of a second, you're not going to be on it on a given frame for the game to register it. And the reason that you see PC players hit it all the time is because they can actually run the game at double the frames. So at 120 frames, the hitbox doesn't move fast enough to ever be able to, quote, magically skip over it. So that's kind of a brief explanation as to why that is a thing and why I honestly agree with it. I think curbs that are brutal in real life should be brutal in the game too. And like I said in my previous video, the last SRL race, I mentioned how SRL has simulation damage, meaning you can damage the floor, the rear wing, you name it. I think every league should be running that. Why not? Why are we not running that? But it is what it is. Just a couple things I wanted to bring up about, you should reward people that are dedicated and show up for races, especially when the schedule and time frame was out before people even signed up for the league. So consistency helps, rewarding your dedicated drivers help, and also basically the people complaining about that turn 2 bump just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. It's like, shut up, it's in the game. And even if it was random, let's say they were right and it is completely random. Well, guess what? You need to decide in the heat of the moment if that's a risk that you need to take.
I assume that's the
And that's a decision you got to make. Everyone has to deal with it equally. Am I saying that I would prefer certain aspects of a game to be RNG for competitive integrity? Absolutely fucking not. But if it does exist in the game, it's something that everyone has to deal with equally. Therefore, you can kind of strategize around it. Like for example, here on console, there's a good chance I'll hit it, but there is some chance that I could just kind of float over it. You'll still see me just aim to miss it 100% of the time because, I'm going to go for that consistency. Nonetheless, you've seen my first couple runs here in qualifying. The clock will tick down a little bit and we'll fast forward a little bit to my next run. As we go in our final out lap of the qualifying session, getting ready for our final flying lap. Currently sit P13, haven't put a great lap in. And yeah, this is a track that I never feel good about going into it because, for those of you that don't remember, I am a pad player. And for those of you that don't know, Italy is one of, if not the worst pad tracks in the entire game. It's right up there with Monaco and Imola. Because pad can't go right to left super fast like wheel can, we basically lose out in every single chicane. And guess what? All but 3 corners on the track are a fucking chicane. So it really sucks. And yeah, I wasn't anticipating to do much here because of that. A lot of very good players, let alone wheel players in this league. And the final thing I really don't like about this track, you've probably heard me say before, I like tracks with a good balance to them, where there's places you can overtake, but it's not a slipstream fest. And this track is 100% a slipstream fest. And what makes it really frustrating in the race is if you're just in a slipstream train and an incident happens in front of you, so you lose slipstream to that group in front, you just are now on the defensive for the rest of the race because everyone's going to have slipstream behind you, but you don't have slipstream to tow yourself forward. So no fault of your own, you're just a sitting duck for the rest of the fucking race. And yeah, a lot of it comes down to luck because of that. Obviously, you can just be a god and qualify pole all the time, but when you're racing with a bunch of top 1%ers and on pad, that's a lot easier said than done. So yeah, and we have a little bit of a spin here in front of us, but luckily he keeps it off the racing line, unlike certain people that we've ran into in this season in SRL.
Seemed like there was a congestion there.
And it's been a nice clean lap so far, and I really want to get a good position, because like I said about if an incident happens in front of you and you lose that slipstream train, you're fucked. Well, I want to have as few people in front of me as possible, obviously. High-level racing strategy here, wanting to have few people in front of me. I know, I'm really coming up with some godlike strategies here today. And yeah, you see Kieran post in 18.6. We will get nowhere fucking near that. Coming around the last corner, nice solid lap. Hug it to the inside to save as much time as possible. As we come up to the line, we are going to be P9 as we cross the line, which is okay and decent for what I was expecting to be able to do. Like I said, very few of us in this league are on pad, so you got that wheel advantage. And yeah, it's a rough one, but we're in 9th. Also, luckily in front of our teammate, so we don't have to worry about him with pit strategy, as he is 3 spots behind us. And we are still in a decent place to be able to get some solid points in this race. We are still trying to catch up to the Alfa Romeo team to lead constructors, and unfortunately I've had fallen back to, I believe, 4th now in the driver's standings. I have both of the Williams and Kieran in the Alfa Romeo in front of me. My goal is still to try to at least get 3rd in that, if not shoot for 2nd in drivers. That would be my 2nd time in a row getting 2nd, which is unfortunate, but hey. When you got a 5-tiered league, 20 people in each, out of 100 people getting 2nd, you're doing pretty fucking all right, I like to think. And yeah, like the fight for everything I can, and constructors is still very much on the table. Heading now to the race, I don't got to tell you guys what the strategy is. If you've seen any of my videos, you know what it is and why it is that by now. And as the lights go out, we get a great launch off the line. The track is pretty skinny though, so we're looking for any gap to make up positions with our good launch. We kind of get cut off a little bit, so we're going to back off. Just hold our position. We are up to 8th. But we get hit from behind, and then the Red Bull doesn't leave us space, so we get hit on both of the corners in the first chicane, and just like that, we are down to 10th, down to 11th, and immediately on the back foot. A little bit irritating there. I know it's very close off the start, but to get hit in the butt and then also pinched on the apex of the second corner, I gained a spot or two off the start, but now I'm down 2 from the start of the race. So a 3-position swing in a matter of a chicane. But we have a collision in front of us. A little bit of karma there as the Red Bull spin. Slows down the Alpine, so we make the move on him. But he's going to do the switchback on us. A lot happening here in the first lap. And like I said earlier, if you're just unlucky and an incident happens in front of you, now for the rest of the race, unless if I can catch up this gap to the group ahead, now I have people with slipstream on me, and I don't have slipstream on anyone, so now I'm just a sitting duck at absolutely no fault of my own. You gotta love it. You gotta love league racing on Italy. As you can tell, I love it a lot, and I don't think at all that it is the worst track in the game for league racing, other than Monaco, which I don't even consider a track, because racetracks you can pass on, Monaco you cannot. Therefore, it doesn't qualify in my mind as a racetrack. But puns and complaining aside, heading down, we're going to get overtaken. We're going to brake a little early, try to do the crossover on the Mercedes, but for the 5th time in half a year, we are going to get hit from behind by Sloth. And for those of you that aren't familiar with what went on last season, him hitting people in the butt is a regular. It's happened to me again, and now we're all the way down in 13th place. The Haas gets into the AlphaTauri ahead. So a little bit of karma for Sloth there. I kind of forgot that happened where, you know, he messes me up drastically by hitting me in the ass, and then someone hits him in the ass in return. So really hope he didn't complain after that. But almost got damaged there as the Haas got very loose. But he slowed me down, and now, once again at no fault of our own, we are going to lose another position. And again, this is just why I hate Italy. Like, so much of it comes down to things you can't control when the pace is similar, which it's going to be in Division 1 of a 5-division league, especially to getting a race when everyone's close. You just got to hope that the incident doesn't happen in front of you. And in my case, I've been hit 3 times in 2 laps and have had 3 incidents in front of me. And as you can see ahead, I'm already the better half of 10 seconds behind the front group. And we are only just now starting lap 3. The Ferrari behind us is going to get a good run on us because we don't have good slipstream ahead. We give them space, unlike other people in this lobby. Get good traction down, and maybe now we can finally settle into the race. All the way down in P13 though, so hopefully we can make something happen sooner rather than later before this race just completely gets away from us. Not much has changed over the last couple laps. I've caught up to this group ahead. I'm faster than this group ahead. But because the Haas gets DRS and slipstream off the car ahead, I don't get a good enough run to be able to overtake. So just kind of stuck on my own DRS train though, but it's really convenient because not only is it out of the points, but a solid 10 seconds off the lead group, which we were hoping to at least be in the train of, and that's our teammate now ahead of us, so another kick in the pants. Our teammate will have preferred pitch strategy over us, even though we out-qualified him, because we got hit by everyone except the flagman in the first couple of laps. We got a really good run out of the final corner at the end of lap 6 going into lap 7, and I knew this was going to have to be the point where I got past this Haas. I can't hang out behind him any longer. He was on the mediums as well, so we definitely got the pace advantage here to even be able to keep up with him, the harder tire. He's going to try to hang on to it. We're going to respect the space, but when you keep the outside of turn 2 there, you get much better traction on the exit. He spins himself out by being too aggressive getting onto the throttle, and that's 1 position back, and now we are up into P12. Fast forwarding to the middle part of lap 7, we are pushing really hard to try to catch up to this group ahead. We have caught up to them, and coming out of here, we have spun out. And I don't want to pull out in front of them here because, yeah, I don't want to pull out in front of cars and cause an incident. And we're back down all the way in the 16th. And you can even fast forward and watch that again. Even watching this back, like the moment that this happened, I was really confused. I didn't have any spins in my practice at Ascari.
Don't worry, you'll get
I've been doing a great job of not spinning all year long, but coming out of there, I wasn't even full throttle or full steering lock. on the left-hander. And it's not like I clobbered the sausage part of the curb either, and the car just spun around. I mean, you can hear me talk to my engineer. I was genuinely confused how I spun. And usually it's like, okay, you make a mistake, you go back and you learn from it. And like going back into doing practice laps and mimicking what I did and looking at the footage, I'm still clueless to how I spun, you know. But I mean, it is what it is. At least if a mistake happened, it happened in a situation like this where I know I'm always optimistic and I fight to the end, but to be quite honest, if there's no safety car, we were fucked. I mean, maybe we could get a point or two, but that's all we were going to get. Pad has a gigantic disadvantage on this track, and when we were already 10 seconds off the lead group because of getting hit, you know, your race is chalked unless the safety car saves you, basically. But of course, I always stick with it. You never know what could happen. I mean, there's still plenty of time for a safety car. Yeah, just watching that one back, that's an irritating one. I mean, not just for the obvious reason I spun, but watching it back, I still don't know what happened that caused me to spin. Not full steering lock, not full throttle in that corner, but it is what it is, and now we are back down in the 16th. We had a car spin ahead of us, and another car pit that was actually on the soft tire, so we are up into 14th now. And caught up to a Haas. Should be able to make the overtake on this long straight, but he's going to burn a lot of ERS on this straight. So it looks like we're actually not going to be able to get him, but at least we'll get a really good toe down into turn 1. And hopefully be able to use that, get a good exit here, and be able to pass him into the second chicane. The cars I do catch up to, I do not want to just hang out behind. But again, he's going to use a lot of ERS to stay in front of us. So we're just going to let him use a lot of ERS, have a faster lap than he usually would, and just tow us along and actually help us gain time on the cars ahead in the process of making the overtake on them. At the end of the lap now, we have actually caught up to a Mercedes ahead that had made a mistake. Another Mercedes is pit. I'm sorry, that's the other Haas in front of us. It's all kicking off here. I got both Haas's. No, a Haas and an AlphaTauri right in front of me. There's so much going on, so many different cars. And yeah, up into 13th, and I was still optimistic that something could happen here. A lot of cars have been spinning, well, including me, but still no safety car yet in this race. And at Italy, that is a rarity in league racing. I'm sure everyone watching this that is league race knows. We have a big moment there, but we make a great save, and hopefully we can just find a gap to be able to start making some overtakes happen. Even passing these two guys ahead won't even get us up into the points, but we still have a whole second stint ahead of us and plenty of time to catch up to people making mistakes ahead. On lap 16th, we will pit from 10th. We gain some positions with other cars trying to undercut each other. We will see now what position we come out of the pits in, down to 14th. Will that be all that we lose? I believe so, yes. So down into 14th after the pit stop, and we will try to hunt down a couple of cars and see if somehow we can get ourselves into the points in this race. After all the pit stop cycle, we would actually end up in 12th. Now we have a spin ahead of us, and that is going to be us into 11th, and now we just need one more position to be able to get back into the points. It's still going to end up, most likely, unless we get a big safety car here at the end. A disappointing race for us with only a few points. But hey, like I say, excuse me, something's better than nothing, and you're not going to see us give up in a race. Today, though, would not be our day for any kind of luck. Not really surprising. We don't get much luck in league racing. And crossing the line, not close to anyone to be able to have penalties pay out in our favor. And yeah, frustratingly enough, is going to end P11 for us. After a average at best qualifying on a track that's really disadvantaged for us, we were able to get a good start, but getting hit 3 times in the first 2 laps is just pretty much an insurmountable deficit for us. Maybe if I don't spin, I can salvage a few points, but still nothing near the points that we need to be getting to be able to fight with the Williams ahead of us, blind spot for the color and orange. Also the Alfa Romeo team. The Alfa Romeo of Kieran does outscore Link, so that our deficit grows in the constructors standings, and unfortunately for me, The Williams drivers got first and second, so that really now puts me down in fourth in points, which doesn't seem all that bad, but for me it's really a disappointing result. Disappointing race overall, but at least we got this one out of the way. Just really hoping that it doesn't become a trend of races, of having bad races like this where we just kind of get bad luck. It's something that happened last year, and it just seems like something that's just so hard to avoid. You know, you do everything you can to keep clean, but the incidents just find you. But hopefully one of these times we can have incident-free races here in Hyperdrive, or maybe for once in our fucking life in this league, have a safety car that benefits us. But we will have to wait till next week to see. I will catch you guys in the next video, which will be round 1 of our World of Outlaws League, so you can look forward to that one.